I'll begin the questioning here. And I highlighted this, and I'd like to start with you, Secretary Marks, and maybe talk to or mention this to each of the other witnesses. The current projected MILCON in Guam, and I'm not saying Guam is not strategically important, it is, but they go up from $4.7 billion in current projects to over $46 billion in planned future projects. Secretary of the Navy mentioned to me after his visit, he thought the number was north of $50 billion. And I have raised this as an issue where I just think the strategic imagination of our leadership has been lacking, whereby with our Indo-PACOM commanders, the current one I have a deep respect for, the previous one, Admiral Aquilino, I also had deep respect for, but there's a sense that everything is defaulting to Guam, every service. And it creates, in my view, strategic vulnerabilities, particularly if there's a war with China. With all of our forces on one relatively small island, this, I think, creates huge vulnerabilities. So, Secretary Marks, can you touch on that? You say you have a holistic Guam master plan that you guys are looking at. I'm assuming it's going to start to look at a more dispersed force in Indo-PACOM and not come to this issue of a default to Guam literally on everything. $50 billion in MILCON when half the Marine Corps and the Navy are already out there seems to me not very smart.
Senator, thank you for that. And I know you're a deep student of history. You and I have spoken of that before, so I completely understand the perspective as you go there. As I referred to, that was part of when we began this understanding as I came in to look at a holistic picture of where we're putting things. This affects not only the Indo-Pacific, but here in the homeland as well, as we look at our real estate, as our holdings, as well as the cost of everything that we are doing. And part of that is working with our combatant commanders that you mentioned, not only Admiral Paparo, but also General Guio, in terms of what is the correct force laydown, where do those things need to be, and then balancing that with the cost that we need to get there. And so we've just, at least from my seat, begun to take a harder look at that. I understand your concerns of that, and Senator, I would love to come back to you and discuss that further as I can get a little bit more insight into it.
Good. I'm glad you're undertaking that initiative. I appreciate that. I commend you for that. Do you have a timeline by which you want to get that study done? You know, sometimes, as you know, in big bureaucracies, DOD being one, when they want something to go away, they say, hey, we're going to study it, and we'll get back to you senators in 3 years. How about giving a little timeline on that?
Yeah, Senator, I've not yet set one to my team. They're trying to give me a better understanding. I will tell you, though, that both visits to Alaska, to Indo-PACOM, and to NORTHCOM are all being planned right now for me because I want to sit down with each one of them. I think we're planning a visit with your staff in August to go out to Alaska. So
great.
That is really the timeline I'm on, is I need to be able to sit down with each of them, have this conversation, and continue to drive that planning ahead. So I will come back to you with that when we work our plannings.
Let me ask, because we have other equities in terms, I appreciate that answer. In terms of services, Mr. Saunders, obviously the Air Force is very heavily invested in Guam. Again, I worry about a couple well-placed missiles in Anderson Airfield is gone, right? Ms. Johnson-Turner, you know, the Marines are, I'm not sure how public it is, but kind of resisting having 8,000 Marines on Guam, no place to train. The housing is enormously expensive to build just to get a couple Marine barracks up. Do you have, either of you have any concerns about the Air Force or the Marine Corps and Navy being over-concentrated in Guam with so many forces and so much MILCON in one place in the Indo-Pacific?
Senator Sullivan, thank you for the question. As you noted, Guam is a special and strategic location and one that's vital to the National Defense Strategy. As Mr. Marks noted, we are staying very connected with the combatant commander on all things holistically as it relates to force flow, force posture, and appropriate operational laydown and operational diversity. So, sir, we will continue to strike the right balance with our Indo-Pacific presence, again, being very nested closely with the combatant commanders.
Ms. Saunders?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. Similarly, our MILCON program and our investments in general are heavily influenced by combatant commander requirements. And so we recognize the strategic importance of Guam, but all of the requirements within the Indo-PACOM AOR. And we, as I mentioned, focus those priorities from the combatant commanders and our component commander, in our case, the PACAF commander, into areas like Guam and other areas in the Indo-Pacific.
Thank you, and I appreciate Secretary Marks' reference to history. When you look at our own history, particularly in Indo-PACOM, when we've concentrated forces, over-concentrated forces, it's not always turned out so well for our country, our readiness, our lethality, which I know you're all focused on. Senator Hirono.